What's going on, everybody? This is Boonjum back. Try bringing you another F122 video. My voice is a little sore just because I've been doing a lot of F1 manager videos lately. So I do apologize if I sound like I have a cold right now. I'm okay. It's just I've been talking a lot lately. But anyway, this is a weekly event from this last week, the Zandvoort quali and race. And I got a little confused going into this lobby as I think we qualified 52nd. Out of like the 3,000 or 3,500 people that qualified for this event. So it's late on a Sunday night. Most of Europe is asleep. I'm assuming I'm going to start near the front, if not on pole, but then we jump into the game, and here I am starting P6. And not only am I starting P6, but once the red lights actually come on, I realize I'm behind AI cars, which is really weird. I always thought AI cars just populated the back of the grid, or AI cars only started in front of guys that didn't qualify. But I did qualify, I had a time and everything, and the AI cars are still out in front of me, so this is probably just EA servers getting all fucked up again. So it doesn't take long. We get out in front of one of the human drivers that started in front of us, so we made our way up to P5 now. Just have to get these AI cars out of the way. At this point, I'm not really sure if the two human drivers in P1 and P2 actually qualified higher than me, or if that's just a server issue. So I don't really know what their pace is. They're starting on softs. I'm on the medium since I started P6. I figured I'm going to be fighting through traffic anyway, most likely slow traffic. So I'll start on the slow tires. And on top of that, if you're using the time trial setup, which I assume most average drivers are because they generally don't know enough to work on their own setups, they're probably using the time trial setup, and the soft tires on the time trial setup, even with minimal tire pressure, will still overheat by like lap 3. So I'm hoping that they're on the time trial setup and dumb enough to keep tire pressures at the pressures that the time trial setup has it at. So if they're smart, they'll minimize all tire pressure and hopefully delay that overheating issue for a lap or two. But even with minimal tire pressures, it's going to overheat anyway. So right now I'm trying to suss out whether they have actual pace or if they're just using artificial pace, which is draining their battery. Now, since I set the fastest sector for sector 3 on the previous lap, I'm assuming that I'm actually faster than these guys. They are on softs and they're probably killing their battery right now to stay out in front of me. So I'm gonna just relax and stay calm for now until I figure out a little bit more. So as we come to the end of sector 2 now, these guys are starting to fight as well. And I'm gonna go through the telltale signs of how I knew that, and we set a fastest sector 2. So how I knew that we were actually faster than these guys. For one, I qualified, so I shouldn't have started behind them. They're on softs, and they're still not able to extend the gap for me. I'm setting fastest sectors on medium compound tires, starting from P6 on the grid, and now we set the fastest lap. So I know that's sign number 1 that I'm probably quicker than them. Sign number 2, and this will probably help you guys out too, so I don't know, just keep these in mind for when you're actually racing. Sign number 2, at the start of lap 3, which is generally when guys start running out of battery if they're draining their entire battery on the first lap or 2 to try to stay out in front. Lap number 3 is when they start running out of battery. So I'm starting to dwindle the gap a little bit. The gap's getting smaller and smaller. So now I know, all right, that was just all artificial pace on the first lap. So that's sign number 2 that I know that they're slower. Sign number 3, my computer crashed the desktop too. It didn't, like, the game didn't crash, but my computer flashed the desktop like this. I don't know why it's doing this. I think it's my antivirus. Anyway, so we lose a little bit of time. But sign number 3 is their batteries start flashing. So I can see their batteries, their lights, I should say. Their lights flashing, so I know that they're low on battery. And then number 4, these two guys are on soft starting P1 and P2. They see a guy on medium get past the AI in literally the first sector. They have 2 seconds on me, and instead of working together to extend the gap, they're fighting each other through every single corner. So sign number 4 that they don't really know what they're doing. And that's how I know, from not even having to battle them, not knowing what their battery percentage is at until their lights start flashing. That's kind of how I know either they're novice drivers or they really don't really know what they're doing as much as I do anyway, or as much as a good driver should know. So at this point, I'm not worried. Take a look at my battery. We still have about 70%. I do burn a little bit here to try and get some of that time back from when my computer crashed to desktop, as they extended the gap out to about 3 seconds. But now I'm starting to notice they're still fighting each other. And I tell you, I don't know how many times I say this in the videos, guys, if you're in the lead, P1 and P2, and there is a seemingly quick guy behind you, stop fighting with each other this early in the race. It's lap 4. You have 14 laps left to go. The more you fight this early on in the race, the more of a chance you're giving to other guys in the back. So not only that, but on the off chance that you guys make contact with each other, one or the both of you are going to damage your car when you're in the lead, needlessly damaging your car, and then making that, giving the guys behind even more of a chance to come and overtake you. So because they decide to continue to fight, 3 slow, 3 furious finally makes it out in front of this Raf Maverick guy. I was able to come back and close that gap now to about a little over a second to P2. And as you can see, he's already starting to go off track here. So at this point, I'm thinking, yeah, he's probably got a time trial set up on, and his tires are probably overheating because he seemed to be able to keep the lead when he was in P1. But lap 3, 4, that's right about when the tires start to overheat, and that's when I started to see him going way off the racing line and not being able to find any grip for his car. So at this point, I know that he's on a time trial setup, and he probably hasn't minimized tire pressures, because you should not be losing that much grip this early in the race. So I know that it's only a matter of time before we catch up to him. Either he makes a mistake, or his tires just go on him. So again, I'm not really looking to push. Battery still at about 75%. Not really looking to overtake, but I can already see he's having a bunch of understeer going into corners. You can see his car just being washed out wide in corner entry there. So not too worried about that guy. The guy in the lead still only about 2 seconds out in front. So even with this guy slowing us down and not driving that great, the leader's still not pulling away. So at this point, lap 6, I'm not worried. Again, like I said, I think as he goes out, I do try to get out in front of him, but he obviously really wants his position, so he starts using battery to get out in front of me again. I just allow him to kill his battery, whatever. I'll just stick behind him and get the slipstream and save myself some battery and time. But yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I ran a practice race before this, so I know that starting on the softs, these guys will probably be looking to pit around lap 8, lap 9. I think lap 8 is when the window opens. So they're, again, it's lap 6 right now, so I probably don't need to rush. He'll probably be boxing in a few laps anyway, and the leader's still not that far ahead, so I'm not super in a rush to get out in front of him. But as we continue on now, every single corner now, he's washing out wide, and I'm looking up at that gap, and we're losing a tenth, 2/10 through every corner. I do turn on the DRS and ERS here just to check to see what our straight line speed difference is, and he's still, yeah, slipstream is not super strong this year, DRS isn't super strong this year, so with us having, I'm using a time trial setup, I'm assuming he's using a time trial setup, so the speed difference isn't going to be that much. So I'm going to have to wait for him to make a mistake if I want to get out in front of him, or wait for him to box and then just go into my normal pace once he is out of the way. But again, here coming into the middle of Sector 2, he is just literally dragging the brakes, and at this point now I'm like, all right, I really want to get out in front, even though at this point the leader still hasn't extended the gap anyway. So here he's not really this isn't really a smart move here. If I didn't back out, he would have just gone right into me and destroyed my car or destroyed his car. So I decided I'm gonna back out because this guy obviously doesn't know better. I'll save him the trouble of destroying his car and destroying my car, and I know I'm going to be able to catch up to him anyway. People just need to be a little bit smarter there. Now the gap is 8 seconds to the leader and 4 seconds to him, and all that will be for nothing anyways, because as soon as we head into this carousel section, he makes a mistake and he just goes out wide, and I'm right on his tail again anyway. So I think drivers just need to be a little bit smarter. When you're clearly beaten like that, you really need to just know when to stop, because now instead of possibly getting behind me and having me drag him back up to P1 and him possibly fighting for the win, now he's 8 seconds behind the leader. I'm gonna blow right by him, and the most he can hope for now is a P3. As he makes another mistake, I'm just like, screw it. I send it down the inside anyway. I don't want to get stuck behind this guy anymore. We're already 8 seconds behind. And look at this. The moment we get out in front of him, we cut the gap to the leader down to 7.3 seconds. So we saved ourselves a whole bunch of time. Yeah, I don't want to. I don't know what this guy's driving level is at, so I don't want to say he's a bad driver or anything like that. But he's not really making smart decisions. And I think his race would. He would serve his race better if he made some smarter decisions. Not fight so hard. He fought really hard to keep that lead at the beginning, and then he fought really hard to try and keep P2 there when it was all for naught. And now this gap to P1 is going to be insurmountable. So he pits. We're P2. We inherit P2 now. And the leader out in front is 6.1 seconds ahead. So like I said before, I wasn't too worried about his pace. Halfway through the race right now, we've been stuck behind a slow driver for a good 5 or 6 laps, and he's only 6.5 seconds ahead of us right now. So, and he's on the faster tire. And I'm thinking right now, he still has to make a pit stop. He's gonna jump onto the mediums because his pace didn't look super fast. I don't think he has that much pace. And then once he goes onto the cold, fresh mediums, he's probably going to lose a whole bunch of time, probably 3, 4, 5 seconds on that first out lap. So since the gap is 4.5 seconds to him right now, I'm not really worried because I know I can claw that time back. And look at the gap's already under 4 seconds already. I think a lap ago it was about 7 seconds. And the gap's already at 3.5 right now. So he jumps into the pit. We inherit the lead. And we set the fastest lap there too, the moment we get out in front of Raf Maverick. So that kind of shows you the huge difference in pace. And that's why I'm thinking the EA servers are fucked up, because there's no way these guys with this pace managed to qualify faster than I did. So that kind of sorted out the confusion at the beginning. Clearly, they didn't qualify faster than me. That was just an EA server issue that I've never ran into before. So at this point, we can kind of get on with our race right now. So gap to P2 behind us is 15.2 seconds. So if I'm doing the math correctly, I think he was about 3.5 seconds in front of us when he jumped into the pits. And then he came out of the pits about 15 seconds behind, maybe 14.5 seconds. So in my mind right now, I'm doing the math. 15 plus 3.5, that's about 18, 19. So if I want to prolong this medium stint and make sure that I come out in front of him, I need to at least extend this gap to about 20 seconds to be safe. And since I did just set the fastest lap on the previous lap on really, really old medium tires, I think they were 10 lap old medium compound tires at that point, and we still set the fastest lap. I know that there's still a little bit of pace left in these tires here. So we're jumping now to the end of lap 14 and the start of lap 15. Now the gap is at 20.8. If you take a look down at the MFD now, the pit now rejoin position says first. I think my math had me, I think the math I did had me thinking that if we were at 20 seconds, that should be enough. That might be borderline. So once we came to the end of sector 3 of the last lap, I figured I'll give it one more go around. I think we were pulling out a second per lap on the, or a second and some change per lap since P2 went in for his pit stop. So I was like, I'll do one more lap, extend the gap out to 21 seconds just to be safe. I don't want to be fighting this guy As you can see, I used I used the rest of my battery to try and extend that gap. So we only have a little bit left now, 17%. And even in the pit lane, I think you only gain back like 15%. So if we were to come back out behind him, it'd probably still be a tall task to try and get out in front of him. So now entering the pit right now, 21.5 seconds. Really, really careful going into the pit because the pit entry is really sensitive this season for some reason. I have a whole bunch of speeding or pit lane speeding penalties in F1 22 compared to last year. So I'm going in really, really careful. Right now I don't know which dot is him on the mini map. And as we come out of the pit lane right here, I'm just looking at that delta. And we managed to come out 4 seconds. So my math was wrong. My math was definitely wrong. I think we only needed about 18 seconds to come out in front of him. I extended it to 22 anyway. So still 2 more than what I calculated and 4 more than what we really needed. So now we're on the softs, and there's just no chance that these guys are going to be able to catch up to us. So yeah, that was a pretty good race. Really confusing race at first, but we managed to take one position through fighting or just really patience and waiting for the guy to mess up. And then we managed to pull a really, really long overcut, pulling the Alex Albon strategy from Australia here, and just literally waiting until the second, third to last lap to pit. So yeah, again, not a really exciting race, but again, there was something in there for me to kind of share with you guys to let you know what's going on in my mind, and how I kind of gauge my competition. So before the race, or during the race, I should say, to kind of gauge how well they are. So just to kind of go over it again, on medium compound tires, we were still setting fastest sectors behind them. By the end of lap 2, we were setting the fastest lap. And then obviously once we were about to start lap 3, their lights started flashing, so I knew that it was just artificial pace. And then once we did start lap 3, they were starting to slow down. Signs of some more newer drivers was they were battling really, really hard early on in the race, when they could clearly see that somebody on harder compound tires was closing in on them. If they were a little bit more experienced or a little bit better drivers, they probably wouldn't have battled so hard, probably would have helped each other extend the gap a little bit. After 3 laps of fighting, if you're still fighting for position, then obviously your pace isn't that far away from the other car. So probably would have been smarter to work together. And pretty much those signs allowed me to kind of gauge their driving skill, and made me realize I don't really need to be risky here. I don't need to be aggressive here or put myself in a risky position to try and overtake sooner than I should, because the race is probably going to come to me anyway, so I really shouldn't be forcing anything here. I tried it that one time, and the guy almost drove me off the road. If I hadn't backed out of that, he would have destroyed both of our cars. So after that, I was just like, yeah, I really need to take it a little bit more easy, because this guy doesn't really know how to defend properly. I don't know, could have been a mistake. He could have locked up and mistakenly went a little bit too deep, but I don't really, like I said, I can't read his mind, so I don't really know what it was, if it was on purpose or not. But after that, I was just like, if he can make a mistake once, he can make a mistake again. So it's just better to be a little bit more conservative and a little bit more cautious. And we ended up coming out with the win anyway, finishing 10 seconds ahead of P2 and 20 seconds ahead of P3. So there was really no need to push and be aggressive. But yeah, that's it for me, guys. That was a really fun weekly event, made a little bit more fun by the fact that I started further back than I thought I should have. But we managed to come back and take the win anyway. Hopefully these few little insights into what's going on in my head during the race can help you out in any of your future races. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. If you think I've earned it, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe. Remember to eat your bok choy. Stay tuned for more, and I'll see you guys in the next one.